Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online Let's Talk video with me, Sherman. Today I want to discuss with you guys just something that kind of has me a little bit concerned with the direction the game is going. Now, anyone who's played an Elder Scrolls game, and I'm not talking the online version, I'm talking Elder Scrolls game, knows that pretty much any ESO game that you play, or Elder Scrolls game you play, test game you play, allows you to really do what you want. It allows you to create your character, play how you want, do what you want, follow within the story how you want, do any of that stuff in any pattern, shape, whatever you want. Now, those games are a lot different from multiplayer games because multiplayer games have other dynamics added to them. In ESO, we have the Trinity, which is the tank, healer, damage dealer kind of thing. And because of that, I feel like some things that were worded by the devs are going to be very misconstrued by the community, and I just want to kind of go over that. So during a release of Somerset, an interview that the devs had, they were talking with the people at PlayStation Underground about how they want the game to be. And they said that the game, they're more about the journey than they are about the destination. And that's what they want players to feel. They want players to feel like the destination is the more important part. Or the journey to the destination, like that journey is more important. And then they go and make a change with something that completely deviates from that. And that is the change to the new trial sets. Now, I'm not saying that I don't like the changes to the new trial sets. I'm not saying that at all. I think that there should be a separation of the different types of people who play trials, from normal trials versus veteran trials and hard mode trials. Just like with dungeons, normal and veteran dungeons, I like that there's a separation in reward. Because in normal mode, you're rewarded with like the most basic of basic rewards, which sounds good. But the more difficult you play the content, the more you're rewarded. So in dungeons, you're rewarded with the monster set on veteran mode, and if you go into the more difficult, challenging stuff in that, you're going to be rewarded with more keys and, the monster set. So you do get greater rewards the greater the difficulty. And I like how they have that. But that's not what has me concerned. I like that. What has me concerned is a comment the devs made in a forum post here recently. I'm gonna show you guys this. You guys can see this for yourselves. So this is what the devs said in the patch notes here recently for Somerset, and this is what has me concerned with the future of ESO. And I just say that I'm concerned because I've played a lot of MMOs, guys. A lot of MMOs. Going back to EQ2, EQ1, all that kind of stuff. And those games are a lot different than ESO. The ESO is an MMO, but they created a different structure with it to where, and they stated this in that same video, that they want people to be able to enjoy the game no matter what level they are. Like the content. Like, if you want to play a trial, they want you to enjoy it from level 1 all the way to max level. But it's this comment here in the spoiler where they said, we redesigned the trial item sets to be more in line with the types of challenges presented and popular playstyles. This means damage dealing sets are focused on sustained damage over a long period of time, which is fine, and tank and healer sets are focused on increasing the effectiveness of the group. Okay, so I really don't mind the changes on the sets. I like a lot of the changes, even the tank one. I like this. What I don't like is the idea of being forced into a specific playstyle. Now, they say it's the popular playstyle. It's popular for trials, yes. But for the rest of the game, it's not so popular. I'm sorry, I'm not going to play a tank from a trial in any overland content. There is no way I would do that. Because I don't have the time to waste. because it just takes too damn long to do anything with them. No offense to those who like the meta tank. It just takes too long to complete any content outside of a group dynamic with them. So, like, if I wanted to play through Somerset, the story and everything, and I wanted to play my tank, I would have to run around in a completely different build to play that through that content. Otherwise, it would take so long for me to complete that content, I probably would never get any of it done. And like I said, this isn't to directly affect the meta, it's the truth. Why play something that doesn't work anywhere else? It's kind of asinine. And I know a lot of people are like, well, you're blowing this out of proportion. I'm not blowing it out of proportion. You want to know what would be blowing out of proportion is some of the comments most people are making on the forums right now. DKs are dead. Templars are dead. Magplars are dead. All these classes are dead. They're useless. Get rid of them. Like, if the class was so dead, why are people still playing them? Because people like them. Whether they're broken or not, people enjoy playing those kind of things, just like me. Even though people tell me all the time that two-handed tanking is useless, it's garbage, you can't do it, I still do it. I still enjoy it. It's one of my favorite things to play in the game. There is nothing to me that comes close. No way the DK tank, meta tank will ever even come close to this kind of fun that I have playing this build. And that's because the DK tank is designed for one purpose. It is designed to be played in a trial, in a group, as a support character. Not as a tank, because, I'm sorry, my job as a tank is to tank. It's not to sit there and debuff everything for everyone else, and I do nothing. Okay? If I'm not doing anything to complement the group besides debuffing mobs, I feel like I'm a third wheel that's just wasting time. And that's just opinion, guys, okay? That's just my opinion. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. You don't have to. My whole point here is that not everyone enjoys the meta. But when the devs say that they're changing the sets to meet the demands of the more popular idea, which is the meta, means that we could see a lot of changes in the end game to reflect that. The next trial could be designed completely around that idea. And if it is, anyone else trying to play that trial that is not meta designed could be wasting their time. And I'm sorry, but I don't want to waste my time purchasing content that I can't have access to because I'm negated from it because my playstyle doesn't fit the demands of the grader. This is where things can go bad. And that's what I'm getting at. This can cause a lot of negative reflection, not only against the game, but against the company as well, because people will see this. People will catch on in time. And when people do, the same thing that's going to happen here, possibly, is the same thing that happened in the World of Warcraft and its decline of player base due to the demands of trial people or raid people over there forcing people into that particular play style that they didn't want. Like when I played a druid over there, I enjoyed playing my tank druid. Now it's still a possible thing, but it's not in as high of demand as it once was. Because now the meta's changed. And in World of Warcraft, the meta changes on like we change our underwear. It's constantly changing. But not that bad, but that's just an expression there, guys. So. But my point is the same. If these changes if they keep persisting with the changes to meet the demands of the community, why did they make the changes to the classes to make it to where every class can tank, heal, and DPS? So we can all wear the same gear sets on every class? What's the point? Where is the diversity? The classes are different? Ooh, but I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still playing it identical to the meta. That's not what we're asking for. We're asking for a diverse system of play. That's what a lot of people have been asking for in this game for a long time. There's been tons and tons of comments made on this on the forums for a long time, and we still haven't gotten what a majority have asked for. Instead, we've got what the minority is asking for, because a lot more of them are on the forums complaining, and anytime that anyone else goes to make a complaint about this stuff on the forums, or to go discuss this on the forums, they get attacked and they get ridiculed because they don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand why the end game's done this way. They don't understand this. They don't understand that. We do. All we're asking for is more variety for options in the end game. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to change like, you're not going to have variety for the end game. I'm saying that just because of that one post, that this could cause a reflection to something worse down the road. And that's not what I want to see. That's not what I want to see in ESO. I want to see the game develop into something really fun for everyone. Not just those who demand a specific playstyle be the mainstay versus everyone else. Like, I want to see more options available for two-handed tanking. I want to see more options available for fire staff tanking. I want to see these items become just as viable for tanking and healing and, you know, all these things. No, like, well, of course you don't want to see a fire staff healer, but I want to see every class viable as tanks, healers, and DPS. But I want to see every class play tanks in a different way. I don't want every tank to be identical. If I wanted that, I would have just stuck with World of Warcraft, where there's only like 4 options for tank. And they're all pretty much play the same. If I wanted a homogenized game, I would play a homogenized game. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking for a diverse game. A game that allows us to diversify our characters and make our characters unique and different. And yeah, just because my appearance looks different doesn't mean I'm not playing what everyone else is playing. When you go into a dungeon in Trial and every tank you see is running the same build, no matter what, that tells me there's a problem. It tells me this game doesn't have any variety. And then when you try to create variety and it doesn't match what that does, you get ridiculed and you get demolished because it doesn't match up. That tells me there's even more of a problem. It tells me the game isn't doing what the devs say it can do. Because we're all being forced, not physically, but more mentally forced into a playstyle that doesn't fit our own. And just because the demand of the community at in-game requires or wants us to play to a certain standard shouldn't be reflected on or forced upon the rest of us by the developers themselves. Now, if the devs would have said, hey, we're releasing these gear sets because we, you know, blah, 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 I would have been fine. But it's the fact that they said because of popular choices and the blah, 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 whatever they, you know, the way they worded it, it just made it sound like, hey, we're doing this because the community at in-game demands it. That's why we're doing this. They want this, we're going to give it to them. So who says in the next update they don't do the same thing, or the next update after that they don't do something worse and make things more mainstream and more simplified and dumbed down to the point where when you make a character, a DK can be a tank and only a tank. And I'm just saying, hypothetically, this could be the direction the game could go. Do you guys want that? I don't. I like the idea of being a DK healer, a DK tank, a DK DPS. But I also like the idea of being able to play a variety of different ways and not being forced into a strict standard. When I see people ask on the forums, hey, can somebody help me with this idea? And somebody says, can somebody give me some assistance on making this build more viable? And they give the build, and somebody just references them to the meta, or to this person's build, or this person's build, taking away the whole concept and idea of what the person was going for in the first place, and just giving them something else that's already been created, isn't what the person asked for. They asked for help in fixing the problem with what they were playing. or to improve on what they were playing, not recreate it into something that's already been done. Just like with when I asked about two-handed tanking, I remember how much negative feedback I got on this for a long time. Nobody helped me. I had to figure it out on my own. And then when I figured out and I shared it with the community, everyone was like, nope, that don't work. You can't do minor fracture, major breach. You're not doing this. You're not using Eben. You're not debuffing the mobs. It's a different kind of tank, guys. It doesn't work the same. So yeah, it's not going to be like that. Two-handed tanks are different. They have to be. The whole idea of two-handed tanking is a different concept. And when people say something can't be done in a game that clearly allows it, then why is it even an option? Why do we even have the option to be able to use a taunt outside of sword and board? If it's not to allow other weapons to be used for tanking. And this is what I'm getting at. It's not, I'm not trying to debunk or remove the meta, guys. I'm not. I'm trying to expand on the idea of what we can and can't play. And when I create an idea, that's what it is. It's an idea. It's a theory. And I test it, and I make sure that it works. And if it works, I'm going to release it. Because guess what? People might like that idea. They might want to play something like that. Instead of being locked into this idea that we only have a handful of choices at max level to play in dungeons and trials, or even in something else, is pushing away a larger demographic of players into the idea that we can't do that. We can't play that way. We're not allowed to play that way because the game doesn't allow that. But in fact it does. But nobody's created it. Nobody's done anything with that idea. Like, for example, hybrids. Anyone who's a builder will tell you the same thing. Hybrids are not viable. Now, hybrids are viable, but they're only viable to what they're allowed to do. And that's because of the discrepancies built into the game that do not allow us to maximize our potential with a hybrid build to be that equal to a pure stamina or magic DPS, or to a pure tank or a pure healer. A hybrid is pretty much just what it sounds like, guys. And I'm sorry if you guys don't want to agree. A hybrid is a jack of all trades and a master of none. That means they can do a little bit of everything. They're good at a little bit of everything. They just can't maintain something as well as anyone else because they're not designed to. They still have their place. They're just not as effective as, say, taking this particular group dynamic. But that's the other thing we have to look at. We have to look at group dynamics as well. When you have a group, and let's say you have one person running Eben, Alkosh, Bloodspawn, and another person running a two-handed tank, how do you make those two work together? Well, easy. You design the other tank, the two-handed tank, to work within that group dynamic. Is it possible? Yes. Has anyone done it? No. Why? Because they think it's not viable. They've been told countless times it is completely impossible to do. But yet, there's people who have been tanking with two-handed weapons since this game released. And every update, it doesn't stop them. It doesn't stop them from pushing themselves to become better at it. They still do it. Now, when it comes to them playing in their trial guilds and everything like that, do they play their two-handed tanks? No. Why? Because they know that that trial guild, if it's dedicated to meta play, will only allow that. That's why they don't play. That's why you never see two-handed tanks running around like crazy. Most of them are play with certain groups in certain activities. Like I know I've ran across two-handed tanks. I've ran across staff tanks in dungeons and in open world, but I've never seen them in trials. Why? Well, because they're not as viable apparently. It's not that they're not viable, it's just nobody will allow it because it doesn't match up to what they want them to do. even though it can be a little bit better playstyle. But that's kind of, again, what I'm getting at. Instead of trying to make the game into something that fits your own needs and your own playstyles, why not try to expand the community by allowing new playstyles and creating new playstyles? That's what the community wants. Why not do that? Why not try to express that and build on it? Well, because it would take too much effort for one person. Well, there's not just one person in the community working on builds, guys. There's a lot of us. And all I'm saying is if we can work together in some way, shape, or form to make the game a better place, to allow people to create a lot more options and create more dynamic groups, we might actually have a good community in the end. A much better community than what we do now. I mean, it's pretty sad when I have to when people ask me, do you know what the, do you have any suggestions on how to play this or this or this? And I have to reference sometimes other people because that's the type of play style they're looking for. Because I'm not going to just throw out meta builds, guys. I'm sorry. I don't play the meta. There's a reason why I don't. Because I don't like the cookie cutter mentality. I don't like playing the idea off of somebody else's idea, basically. I don't like playing what somebody else has made. And the reason why is because I'm just copying and pasting their character. Why am I even playing the game if all I'm doing is playing them? And it's nothing against those who do that. It's just, I always tell people, when you see a build, treat it like a template. Treat it as an idea. And then customize that idea to your own needs. Just like the idea that any race can, or that the only race that can tank right now is the Argonian. But people have been tanking with every other race in the game since day one. Yes, Argonians do have a better aptitude with potions, but that's it. They get 3% max magicka. They're better healers, honestly. They do make good tanks, though. But so do Wood Elves, so do Orcs, so do Nords, so do pretty much anything. It should be a preference of play. And it should be based on people's preference of play style. Not on the idea of, hey, we got a meta, we all have to play it. We should all be forced into it. And that's kind of what this feels like. Is we're being forced into a playstyle that we don't enjoy. Now, I'm not saying I don't like the new sets. I'm not. I'm saying those new sets do fit the playstyle, and it's something that's been much needed for those people who play that playstyle. They haven't had an introduction of a new set that fit their needs in a long time. And this kind of plays suit to that and allows them to have an extra set of gear that they can choose from, which is really good for them. But there is a lot more options out there. And that brings me to another discussion. How many of you out there have always wondered, like, how do you get these gear sets if when you're shown a build, like playing in a trial and people are playing, like, oh, you got to get this set, and it drops in specific areas, like Maelstrom Arena, Dragonstar, all this, and they're playing through that content with those things, and you're like, well, how am I supposed to get them? Well, that's how you're supposed to get them, I guess. You're supposed to use that you're supposed to use those builds with those particular sets to get that stuff, because you can't get it any other way. And it's not that, it's just that nobody's shown anyone how to get that stuff without that stuff. And it's kind of annoying when people do that, when they're like, oh, hey, this is the sets you need to get that stuff, but, oh, this is how I got it. If they were just do that, I mean, it would make things a lot more understandable and a lot more easy. Because, I mean, anyone who has already earned the item deserves to show it off. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that when you do that and you explain to somebody how you got the item, but then they go look it up and it's like, oh, well, I'm using the item that I got from this thing, like Maelstrom Arena or Dragonstar or this trial, and they're wondering, how do I get it without that stuff? Well, that's how. The other thing I wanted to kind of discuss in this, and I'm going to keep this part short, is the fact that the devs said that any set that is craftable is as good as the sets that drop in the game. And technically, they're right. But they're also wrong with the addition of the new trial sets. The new trial sets are not comparable to anything else in the game, because the perfected versions do drop in an extra 5-piece bonus. We can't craft anything like that. And I'm not saying we need something like that, but it's just kind of like saying that everything in the game can be basically crafted to the equal standard is false now, and it needs to be clarified on the devs end, because stating something and then changing something that completely debunks that statement kind of just throws yourself under a bus. So again, that's kind of the point, is like, we have some really cool devs, don't get me wrong, I do think the devs know what they're doing with their game, but at the same time I think they overshoot their bounds sometimes, and it can shoot them in the foot when it comes back to bite them in the end, you know. And I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to call them out. I just giving the honest truth. I mean, don't do something and then turn around, or say something and then turn around and completely change that structure, like they did with the crafting, and they did with the end game, and they did with, you know, the idea that we can play how we want except when it comes to end game. And you can play how you want even at end game. It's just trying to find a group that's willing to work with you is a lot harder. So, but that's pretty much it for this video, guys. That's what I wanted to say. I hope you guys understand. I'm not bashing the meta. I really am not. I think that the game will always have a meta, and whether I prefer it or don't prefer, and it's not that I don't prefer it, I just don't like it. I don't like the way it works. I don't like the play style. It doesn't fit me as a player. And I think that's what a lot of people misconstrued. When I make comments about the meta, it's not because I don't like it or I hate it. It's I don't prefer it. It's not my playstyle. If it would fit my playstyle, I would play it. But nobody's created anything within the meta that fits my playstyle ever, except for the few DPS builds. A few, very few. And if people would build around the preference of playstyle instead of around the idea, I think we would have a better place in the game. I think we'd have a lot better community in the game. But that's it. That's all I have to say for that. So again, sorry about the rant. Wasn't trying to. It was just me showing concerns about the game and its direction, and just giving my thoughts and insight on it. So yeah, let's leave it at that. So if you guys like this video, you guys can go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. That's up to you. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.